How do I move on after divorce? Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast.
I'm Brannon.
I'm Tyler.
We're brothers,
We're therapists.
and we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery.
Hey, Tyler, you ready to have some hard conversations?
Let's do it.
Let the Therapy Brothers podcast begin. How's it going, Tyler?
Going good, man. It's been a couple weeks since I've seen you.
Yeah, I was in Alaska.
Yeah, you're living the dream, man. It looked like you caught some nice fish too.
Yeah, and hung out with some of my best friends, and so it was awesome.
Yeah, good for you, man.
Awesome.
I'm excited for you. Happy you had a good time.
Yeah, it was good. It was good stuff. Alaska's just rejuvenating to the soul, you know.
Something incredible about Alaska. just the vastness and the grandeur of it all.
Yeah.
My son-in-law grew up in Juneau.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and he and my daughter were there over the summer. So
Yeah,
Cool.
it's
I'd love to
just
go.
beautiful. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Everybody needs to go there.
Hmm.
So I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
Don't go there.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah.
wants to live there too much, probably.
Yeah. Well, let's jump in today. Kathryn, welcome to the show. You've been on before a long time ago. You're in a different position now than when you came on before. Why don't you just kind of give us a little bit of your story, your backstory, ask your question, and we'll get into it.
Yeah. So the divorce was final the end of February. So that was 42 years we had been married, and but we had been separated quite a while. So this it's been 5 years now that we have been apart, and I've been. I run an Airbnb in my house, so I've met a lot of people, and kind of excited because I have over 200 reviews now. So
Nice job. That's awesome.
yeah. And so, it just kind of this ongoing journey of, finding myself and navigating life alone and trying to find new connections. And, I think it seemed like people were there for me when I was going through the whole divorce process. And then once the divorce is final, they're kind of like, okay, now it's done, move on. Don't talk about it, it's over kind of thing.
Like the support has fallen off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, one good friend even told me, don't talk about it because you're just reinforcing the neural pathways in that toward, in a negative way or something. So don't talk about it. Don't talk about him. Don't talk about your marriage.
So oh, go ahead, Tyler.
Well, I was just going to ask if you wouldn't mind, Kathryn, as much as you feel comfortable. If I remember right, the last time we visited with you was quite a while ago. It had been at least over a year ago. And the episode that we did then, if I remember correctly, was you were kind of in this holding pattern of what do I do with my relationship? You seemed like you were kind of teetering on the edge of divorce at that point. Would you mind just kind of helping to fill the gaps between the last time we talked to you, how you came to the decision that it was time to move on and get a divorce, just what your process was like, and then just kind of lead us up to the current time?
Well, we did talk about that in our last session with you about the one counselor that my husband had found, and he's a sex addiction therapist, and he gave my husband some things to do for a month, and he didn't complete them. Now looking back, I kind of wish I would have pushed it a little bit further and said, let's give him another chance, And I don't know why, but, that's kind of been the pattern of just giving him more chances. I think it's hard for me to face reality, because maybe I think like we talked before and you said, Tyler, there's a man with a good heart there. He's just really broken and full of shame. And maybe that's the part of him that I see and want to connect with, but it's just didn't happen. Right.
Hey, how
So,
many how many chances did you give him, would you say?
well, I don't know. I mean, I waited 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
But didn't really give him an opportunity or ask him to move back into the house because I hadn't seen anything happening. We weren't communicating well. There wasn't any healing going on between us. And I didn't feel like just moving in would be productive.
Because I'm hearing some regret there. Even though you waited 4 years, there's still that regret of I should have given it a little more time. And I'm wondering if that's your grief, where
Yeah.
transitioning into being divorced has been really difficult, or if you're really feeling like maybe you made the wrong decision.
Oh, I think I vacillate between both of those. It's easy to look back and, I'm trying to look back and look at my part and see how immature I was in the marriage and what I could have done better and that kind of thing. But, now I haven't seen him or really talked to him it's been about a month. And that has helped. It helps if I don't see him and talk to him much. But, he lives nearby and our kids, we have kids nearby too. So it's kind of hard to not see him.
Yeah. How are the kids transitioning? I remember, if I remember right, they were kind of blaming you some, and how's that going?
Well, I've had some good discussions with my son. It's basically him. He, I think, connects to his dad, and I think they've gotten a lot closer. But the interesting thing, so my daughter and her husband live up in Montana, and they were coming to visit for a week in August. And I had asked my son if they were going to stay with my son. And I said, can I come down and hang out with you on a Sunday? And he said that, his dad was going to be there and he wasn't sure. He wanted me there because he didn't want a lot of drama. And the day before, my ex-husband had been here because we own this house together and he was fixing something in the house. And I said, oh, I'm going to go to a movie because I wanted to see Oppenheimer. And I said, you want to come with me? And so he said, yeah. So we went to a movie the day before and we didn't talk at all. He didn't talk to me and so I told my son, well, we just went to a movie the day before. I don't think we're going to have any drama. And then I said, why don't you ask your dad how he feels about me coming over there? And he said, well, he wouldn't tell me anyway. So I realized, I don't think, they don't rely on, I don't know what kind of relationship they have with him. And, we're navigating it. I feel like I walk on eggshells with my son a little bit, but I'm trying to, they're going to have a second baby and I try to go over there once a week, even though it's an hour each way, and help out her because she's going to get her master's degree in counseling. She wants to be a therapist. And my daughter and her husband stayed with me for 2 nights and 2 days, and we hiked each day and went out for dinner and had a really good time together. But they don't talk about it.
Is some of the tension with your son making you wonder if it was the right decision?
No. Oh. I think it's just more me. And, when you've been married this long, you kind of have to look back at your life, Mm-hmm. I mean, because it was pretty much, it's kind of like, well, at my age, what, where do I go from here, Mm-hmm.
Kathryn, what were your reasons for the divorce in the first place? You mentioned one, that you gave him a bunch of chances and nothing was changing. Mm-hmm. Was there any other reasons, emotionally or otherwise, that made you kind of come to the point of making the decision you did a year ago?
Well, I think because he wasn't nothing, it was so stagnant maybe, and I didn't see him connecting with me. And that was pretty much our whole marriage, was the lack of emotional connection. And I didn't feel like staying married was going to accomplish anything. I mean, we could just live in that limbo forever. And it didn't feel right to me. It just kind of felt yucky. Like, and maybe it was my way of, making a statement that I'm not going to just let him run my life.
So then my question is that with Brannon kind of asking these questions, and of course I think it would be natural no matter what to have all the feelings you've already described and kind of the wondering. And mm-hmm. I think it's awesome that you guys are civil enough with each other that you can go to a movie together. When you go to a movie together and you don't say a word with each other, it sounds like it's more of the same of what you used to have, right?
Yeah.
So in essence, mm-hmm. what I'm hearing you say is that you have the same relationship that you had before, but now you're divorced. And you're in the process of also trying to go and find new parts of your life, new connections. Mm-hmm. Look for the things that you were looking for in the first place when you decided to divorce them. Mm-hmm. And I think it would be normal.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I think it'd be normal to have all the feelings that you're describing. And the reason I'm asking the questions is because, and I think this is maybe where Brannon's going, you can clarify, Brannon, if you want, but was this a mistake that you need to go and actually rectify? Or was it a good decision that's just part of the grieving process that you're in right now? And you need to continue to try to move yourself forward instead of looking back?
I don't feel like it was a mistake. But I think I want to learn from the marriage, and I don't think it's anything I could rectify. I think it's something he could rectify. So,
if I remember our last episode, and if you were to go back and listen to our last episode, I think if all of us were, we'd listen to that and say, yeah, it wasn't a mistake. It was time, and it was more than time to move forward and mm-hmm. make this hard decision. But what I wonder is about, you talk about moving on with parts of your life. You brought up your age and at this age, but what do you look forward to? What do you want to create? What is your vision? What possibilities are out there now for you?
Well, in a lot of ways, I really like what my life is right now. I mean, I meet a lot of great people that come to my home, and a lot of them are international. And I love that. I love to travel. I don't feel like I have the time to travel because I work every afternoon. And so I'm kind of looking at, where I can fit travel in, nice. And adventures. I did a lot of that over the summer, going on trips. And I don't mind traveling alone or hiking alone. I do all of that. But I think
do you want to be alone, Kathryn?
I don't mind. I don't see. I guess it's not. I don't want to put the work into like trying to find somebody, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think my goal is to find somebody.
Okay.
I just would like to know how to connect with, it's kind of like I've gone back to a church I used to go to, and I'm doing a women's Bible study in a small group, and trying to find my place of belonging, trying to find connection. But I guess, my question is, maybe what does the letting go and moving on look like? And, emotionally, maybe, I mean, it's easy to go through life and do the things I like to do. But then there's still the inner part of me that is trying to find its place of comfort. I don't know if that makes sense.
Tyler, did you have something?
Go ahead.
I was just going to tell a story. When I very first became a therapist, I worked for hospice, and it was a great experience. My first week working for hospice, I went to this group. It was a grief group, and so it was about 8 people that came, and they talked about basically their pain around losing loved ones, and it was emotional, it was intense, but something that they didn't do, or that the therapist didn't do, was try to paint a rosy picture, try to fix it, try to have them overcome their pain, anything like that. They just sat in their pain together for like 2 hours. And they hugged each other because they were all feeling that pain together.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why would I bring this up with you, Kathryn?
Well, I've been grieving,
Mm-hmm.
and it just seems to kind of go on. I mean, it's not as bad as it was, but it just like, maybe you always grieve, but maybe I'm looking for those people who would hold me in that grief.
Yeah. Grief is like it comes in waves, and the waves are sometimes bigger and more intense, and sometimes they're smaller. Sometimes they're more frequent, back to back to back. Sometimes they're wider apart, and as you grieve, they seem to get wider, more distant apart. The waves do, and less intense over time. But the only way that happens is through processing that energy and moving that energy. And so I wonder with you if what you're lacking is a place where you can get some empathy, where you can process some of the pain that you're going through, a shoulder to cry on.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that is true. I think maybe what I really just want is, maybe a place to belong.
Mm-hmm.
And that, who can you call in the middle of the night? Or if I was in an automobile accident last November, totaled my car. And, we were still married at that point, but he was the one I called.
Mm-hmm.
And partly because, we had insurance together, and he came to my house and helped me for a couple days. I mean, I was in the hospital overnight and broke my sternum, so I couldn't like get in and out of bed alone. And but he, was just, you know, I think he'll always be there, I think, to help me, which is, I don't know. I told,
But Kathryn, think about it. Like, one
yeah,
of the main reasons why you divorced him is because of a lack of emotional connection.
yeah,
And then you're saying he is kind of the best main support that you have in your life, and but you're saying to us, I have all these emotions and all this grief that I don't know what to do with it, but then he's my main support. Do you see how this is
yeah.
going to be hard for you to process through some of this stuff?
Well, he's not an emotional support
Right.
at all.
I wonder though if that where Brandon's going with that, because that's been on my mind a little bit too, Kathryn.
Yeah.
As I hear it in you, like actually a lot of very good things that you're already doing. First is you went and sought some support through your Bible study, through your church. You're getting a little bit of connection through these people that you have coming and staying in your home, which is kind of a fun thing, its own sort of adventure. You've gone and sought out your own sense of adventure. You're doing a lot of good things to try to like take care of yourself and move on. And you still have 43 years of grieving to do, which I think we've all agreed on is happening and it's coming in waves. And you said it's getting less and less, but it's still there. There's this other side, which is this human part of us, that it's part of the human condition that we can try to piece it together, and we need to, given our circumstances, the best way we can. But there's always going to be this ache inside for that person, for the connection, the deeper level of connection, and that void is there, and it's probably going to be there for a while. Partly because you said you're pretty comfortable not pursuing it right now, but it doesn't mean there's not that void there, right? The other thing that's happening is that you still have the friendship with him that's been there for 43 years, which is a testament to both of you guys. When you go through a divorce, that doesn't happen all the time. But I think where Brannon's going is it's kind of puts you in a rock and a hard spot, that if part of the moving on and moving through things is with grief, you come to a point of accepting the losses that are there eventually. If he's there always opening up that grieving process again, that's going to make the process longer and harder. And it might also eventually be a block towards that other void that you eventually may want to try to fill in having your person, having actually that other kind of connection that right now you're not ready to pursue, but eventually you might be. That's going to make it a little bit sticky. I think that's what you're saying, right, Brannon?
Yeah. If we've identified that there's grief here, and your question is how do I move on from this? And ultimately, if you look at the stages of grief, you don't want to have a goal. There's not an end goal to grief. It kind of bounces back and around, and you'll be angry, you'll be depressed, you'll be, bargaining your way out of this, you'll find acceptance. But as time goes on and these waves come and they're more distant, you want to find yourself more in a state of acceptance. And, your question is how do I move on from this grief? And we've identified that you need to process it. You need to talk to someone. You need to cry. You need to feel these emotions. But Kathryn, if you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always gotten. So I really like what you said about I'm going to a Bible study group. I'm getting involved with things. I'm connecting to people through my work with the Airbnb. Like those are all good things. I would really be deliberate with, I don't know if there's some family members that you maybe haven't been that close to that you could be, to kind of fire up some of those relationships. At church, to like really try to become better friends with some people so that you can get support there. Find a really good therapist who can listen, and maybe you just tell that therapist, like, I just need someone to listen as I talk about the struggles I'm having with my son and with my ex, and just like, the pain that I'm in. There's opportunity for expression and for somebody to hold that energy and emotion for you. But it's gonna take you continuing to do what you're doing in a lot of ways, but continuing to try to find that support somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm doing that. I did a healing care group a while back, and the woman who does that, she does healing prayer. I've been meeting with her. I'm going to meet with her. I've been meeting with her every other week, and then we talk and do some healing prayer and ask God to, show up and what is he going to say to me, kind of thing. But I said to her, I would at this point feel devastated if my ex, had a girlfriend or got remarried like that at this point. And she's like, why? Yeah. Like, he didn't connect with you, and he probably wouldn't connect with somebody else. Why do you feel that way? And I wrote that, I struggle with that. I'm like, well, he committed to me. And,
but you're divorced.
I know.
And that's the reality.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. It makes me think, it makes me think of like the Byron Katie's work, the work with Byron Katie. And then there's a book called Loving What Is. You've probably read it before, but she says that when we have these things come up in our life, our work is not done until we've worked to a place where we can say, I look forward to. So instead of, I can't stand the thought that he'd be married again, you've worked yourself and your grieving process and your own personal process to a point where you can say, I look forward to the day when he finds new companionship.
Really?
Yeah, and all that really means that there is that you're on the show for the right reasons, because that's the process that you're in right now. Like, you're still growing, you're still learning, you're still hurting, you're still going through some of these things, and eventually you're going to come to a place, because of the person that you are, that you're going to want goodness for him as much as it is for you. And if that's the way that it goes, because you're divorced and you've moved on and you've got a new life that you can embrace and that you love, you'll more and more come to this place. I know you're not there right now. I do want to say, Kathryn, I wish we could take a snapshot between just your body countenance of today's conversation versus the last time we talked. Last time we talked, your face muscles were so much tighter. Everything was kind of shrunken in and tight. And you just look so much more grounded and peaceful on this call than the last time we talked. So there's some work happening there. You're just not to the point yet where you can say, I look forward to him getting remarried.
Yeah, just you saying that, it's like this,
Yeah.
I just listened to the audiobook, The Secret Life of Bees, and it was such a good book. But she says, like, my chest hurts so much from the sadness, and it's not as bad as it was, but, I guess you saying that, I'm not there, that, and I'm not sure why. I don't feel like it's my worth. I think maybe it's something God puts in us, because I've talked to a lot of other people who have divorced and remarried, and even though they love the person they're with, they still kind of look back and go, I wish I would have kept our family together. There's still, I think God puts that, we attach to a person, and we're meant to attach, and you pull that attachment apart, and it's just not natural, right? And,
well, did you say 42 years?
Yeah.
After 42 years, and you've been divorced since November, you say? Like last year?
End of February.
End of February, right.
But
so
we didn't live together for, 4.5 years.
But still, the divorce just happened end of February. So give yourself some time. I think it's where you're at right now. You're kind of in this bargaining stage, and what that means is you're a little bit ambivalent. You're kind of like, well, I know divorce was the right thing, but was it? Like, sure would have been nice to keep the family together, but yeah, I'm glad I divorced him. But like, so give yourself some time. You're right where you need to be, Kathryn. That I hate to give you this answer, but you as long as you're willing to continue to step in and deal with the pain, you'll move forward and you'll move out of this. But I don't think you can't snap your fingers and be like, hey, like after 42 years, like, okay, I'm just not going to think about that, move on with my life, like la-di-da, right? So give yourself some compassion and some love for the courageous thing that you just did. And as the pain comes up, just feel the pain. Allow yourself to cry. Allow yourself to talk about it, to be in it. Don't should yourself out of it and say, no, I shouldn't have those feelings of, wanting to go back into the marriage. Or you have them. They're there. That's the reality. That's okay. Right. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds good. I mean, it's like that sounds like the right plan, but like doing it and the reality of it's kind of different. I mean, like it's easy to say, just feel it. And then you're feeling it, and then you're like, okay, now what?
It's easy to say just sit in the pain, but the pain's not fun. So like, yeah, it's easy to say just sit in the pain, but the pain sucks and it's hard. Having gone to Alaska recently, one of my friends in Alaska years ago got a halibut hook stuck in their hand.
Oh.
Have you ever seen a halibut hook? They're like big, thick hooks.
Oh.
Like it's more intense than just like a little trout hook or something. And I think about that analogy a lot of like getting that hook out was very difficult. They had to push the hook through the other side. So if my friend just left the hook in his hand because he didn't want to push it out, like then infection would happen and it would start to affect every part of him. And a lot of times that's what we choose when there's something that we know we need to do, but it's too painful to do it. We let infections set in. And you know what, Kathryn, you stepped up and you pushed the hook through. You got divorced. Like, ouch, that hurt. You did it. You cut that barb off. You got that hook out of there. But now you got a big gaping hole in your hand. So at least the infection's not there, but self-care needs to happen in order to heal that wound that's still there. And so as you look at that wound, it's like, okay, how do I attend to this in a healthy way? I can't snap my fingers and all of the pain is gone. It's still there. But now I want to attend to myself, do my own self-care, allow myself to heal in every way that I can. So
that's a really good picture. Yeah. Maybe when that's hurting, I can look at my hand and think about that. And some of my friends, they're friends I've had since college, and now their husbands are retired or semi-retired, and they're traveling around visiting their kids and their grandkids and spending time with their grandkids and their family, and they're together, and I think that's part of my sadness too, is that's what I wanted. I wanted us to be traveling and playing with our grandkids together, and not that I can't do that alone, and I do, but it just, again, I guess I have to say that's one of the losses,
Absolutely. Kathryn, I love where Brannon's going with you, and you said sit in the pain, and I was going to add to that, for the sake of letting yourself move through the pain. It's not just sit there and wallow in it. That's how we do it. It's like, you watch a child play throughout the day, and they go from being really, really happy, something happens, and they cry as hard as you've seen anyone ever cry, and then 5 minutes later they're back to being content and happy again. And it's like they have that natural capability of just letting their emotions move. And that's where we as adults get in the way sometimes, is we notice, and I like what the word you use, Brannon, attend to the wound. We attend to the wound, but at the end of the day, we're going to let things move. And so allowing ourselves to cry, allowing ourselves to be angry, doing some journaling, using the forces of nature, water and fire and things that allow for that movement to happen is going to be, you're going to have 100 different iterations of the same feelings of sadness and loss and all of that stuff. But allowing that to happen is important. I maybe suggest, Kathryn, too, that you brought this up. I know we're getting close on time, but so much of this is what we call ambiguous loss, which is that you don't have a way to put your finger on everything until all of a sudden it crops up and your friends are like, yeah, we're visiting our grandkids. And you're like, oh, that's part of my loss too. Or, maybe there's a different thing that happens. And you're like, oh, that's another thing. Give those things credence. And you might even do a little exercise for yourself where you list out all the different areas of your life, physical, emotional, spiritual, social, educational, whatever you want. And then actually sit with each one of those categories and take some time to just put things down in each category when those losses come up and when they accumulate, so that you can see them in front of you and give them a voice and let them be seen. Does that make sense? Because they're going to cry out until they're seen, until they're processed, until they're validated.
Yeah, that's good. I will do that. I appreciate that suggestion. And I think it's like when that wave comes, you think, oh, I guess it's easy to look at that I'm not really healing because it keeps coming back, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, if it keeps coming back, then maybe I haven't dealt with it. Why does it keep, that's...
And that's why I say it's more of a repetition, rinse and repeat kind of process-oriented thing than it is, okay, we're in bargaining, then we're going to go through anger, then we're going to go through sadness, and then we'll be in acceptance, and then I'll be really happy when he finds a new wife. Like, no, it's like, if whatever's there is just another iteration of my ability to just allow it to process. I'm just allowing it to move. That's all I'm doing. If it comes back, that's okay. You're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah. So what was the Byron Katie book?
Loving What Is.
Oh, Loving What Is. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I keep thinking of that, what they say in 12-step groups about, living life on life's terms. And, because we want to make up our own terms many times, right?
Yeah.
People love the Byron Katie book, and people hate it.
They hate it.
If you're not ready for it, it kind of really just down to the bare bones of personal accountability for what you want in your life, and what you can create, and how you can work through hard things, and how you can change your thinking and change the way you feel. If you're in a state of grief and you want to stay in a certain state of grief, reading those words and getting those tools is kind of like, it's not fun. But I love that book. It's awesome. The principles in it are amazing. It doesn't walk you through grief so much. It walks you through how to change your perspective and shift your thinking so that you can feel differently. So like Tyler was doing this with you some earlier, when he was talking about celebrating him dating somebody. Or you shifting your thoughts around, you know what, like my friends are going out with their spouses and they're, going to these events and this and that. How can you shift your thoughts to be so happy that you're single, that you get to do this on your own and you get more freedom, and like, this is awesome. This is great. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, we won't recap the whole book here, but I do think it could be a good book for you right now.
Yeah, I think I guess I'm kind of in this, like, trying to put a label on my marriage so that I can say, this is what it was, and put it in a box somewhere, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
if I can just label it and it's over here and that's that.
Was it a successful learning experience for you?
Well, maybe that's what I'm doing right now, trying to learn what I wasn't aware of at the time.
Right. Yep.
It absolutely offers that. You absolutely have that opportunity, no matter what. So, Kathryn, I actually think you're on the right path. And you said something. I think it might be years where you still have that hole in your heart a little bit, where you go, "Oh, did I make the right decision?" Because that's what everybody thinks, and you're going to have to bring yourself back around to answering that question for yourself with the reasons why you did it in the first place, and asking if things had changed.
And I think,
you're on the right track for sure. Like I said, I can already see it in your own countenance. You're just a few months out from actually finalizing the divorce, and you're where Brannon said. I think you're right where you should be.
Yeah, you're right with the hole in my heart. That that there's just I don't know what the word is, a void. Mm-hmm.
Kathryn, I appreciate you coming on and being vulnerable about it. I definitely, as you've been talking, have been like, it's been very apparent that you're grieving. And again, like I said to you before, that's okay that you're grieving. And I want you to just be okay with that. There's a big part of me that wants to tell you it's all going to be okay. And I guess in a way I just said that to you, but there's a more important part of me that wants to say to you, good for you for being right where you're at. And that's okay. Right.
Well,
with that.
And this is part of my healing, is to be seen and heard. Right. And that's what you're offering. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for offering yourself today, Kathryn, for so many others as well. It takes courage to do what you just did today, and we acknowledge that. And you're going to continue to meet your life with courage, because that's the kind of person that you are. So thank you, Kathryn.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, if you found this helpful or really appreciated Kathryn coming on and being vulnerable, then please leave a review and say thank you to Kathryn. And Kathryn, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Yep, we'll see you.